kind of sick of talking about like the policy board and the future of golf, and it just seems like every day there's more of this stuff coming out. But I think there's nuggets, and I think there's value, and I think there's interest around it. And the players keep feeding that beast. That's one. And two, the people who are talking, at least in my opinion, have tremendous value. Like their opinion has a lot of weight. We can start with Jordan Spieth, whose opinion has a ton of weight. He's on the board. He's one of the directors. He's in the meetings. Okay? These are just, I'm just going to read a couple. He talked for a long time about this stuff in his press conference. You can find all these pressers online. I would recommend you watch them if you're interested in this stuff. It's fascinating. But this from Jordan Spieth, I'll read a couple different things. Quote, "It's just balanced. It's not player-driven." He's discussing the board, the weight of the board now, having more players versus independent directors. "It's not player-driven. So you guys have got to stop saying that it's player-driven. It's not the case. It's balanced in a way that, at least from what I've heard from investors, tour management, and independents, they feel it should be. I think we're in a place where that's the case. We're being told that this is how it should be as well." He continues, quote, "I think things are unfortunately put in a really bad light right now. And I think things are actually in a really, really good place right now, based on what I know, which is quite a lot in this situation." I want to read that last sentence one more time. "I think things are actually in a really, really good place based on what I know, which is actually quite a lot in this situation." I think that's interesting. "I think things are moving forward at a speed that both sides are probably frustrated at each other at different times when they're trying to get a hold of each other. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on as well, but in general, everyone on our side, I believe, are rowing the boat in the same direction together, And I believe we're going to end up in a really good place," end quote. Those were thoughts from Jordan Spieth. Matt, any reaction to those comments?
A couple reactions off the top of my head. The first one is that in Jimmy Dunn's resignation letter, right, this is a person that's going out the door. So this person presumably at that point is not trying to play any political cards. It's not utilizing any platitudes, but just going, "Peace out, I'm gone." And he did not give any indication that things are rosy on the upside, but at the same time, in balance to that, he also said they're not soliciting my opinion, so maybe there's things that he doesn't know, in fairness to Jordan's comments. But he did say well, now because there's more players, it was almost as if, and I talked about this yesterday, it was almost as if somehow that's being presented as a problem. And then Jordan's coming on going, whoa, it's not players driven. You guys got to stop saying that. It's balanced. Okay, here's my question. What's wrong with it being player-driven? What's wrong with the question that I asked of Carney earlier, where I said, "Carney, we were always told that the PGA Tour belongs to the PGA Tour players. Now we're being told that a new commercial entity exists, and that new commercial entity exists that has stripped all of the commercial revenue out of the PGA Tour, which includes presumably television rights, are now in this new entity. But the players who owned the PGA Tour, so we were told, are being granted ownership, as they say, for the first time ever. We're told this is historic, first time ever. What do you mean first time ever? We've been told forever that you already owned it. But first time ever, they're being given grants of ownership that will vest over some period. And those grants are based upon a criteria of which we don't know fully or who are determining such. Okay, well, when the music stops, who doesn't have a chair? Where do you stand? It's very confusing, right? Now, having said all that, I'm an optimist, and I still believe that, when the dust settles, we'll be told what all this means. And maybe these questions will be answered because, honestly, I haven't heard anybody else ask the question that I just asked. How do you get granted ownership in something that I thought you already had ownership of, but this is a new entity, but the new entity had to take assets from the old one? Right? So there are some big questions there. I'm glad to hear that Jordan thinks that it's moving in a direction that everyone's moving in the same direction or the correct way. It's odd given the things that we've now heard from Jimmy on the outside with his way out, from what we heard from Rory McIlroy talking about some old scars and et cetera, it not being put back on that board. Governance being used as the excuse for not putting him back on, that it's more complicated than what you think now that it's governance. But if that's the case, how did Tiger get on that board? Because there was we don't even know what his term is. Do we need to know? Is it our business? Maybe not. So it's the comments are interesting. The one thing that I'm taking away from it personally is I'm glad to hear that Jordan is optimistic that they're moving in the right direction. What's unclear is what exactly that direction is and who are the minds that currently are shaping it. Anything else, Dom?
Yeah, two more quick ones. The first one, Max Homa also spoke. Interesting comments, semi-related to what you're talking about. This from Max Homa. Yeah, it's been tricky talking about the situation that we're in. I do feel like the internet probably makes it worse than it really is. It's a very small community, and they're incredibly loud. So I think if you spend a lot of time on the internet, it does feel like professional golf is crumbling. It's tough to decipher because when you're on the grounds of events, it's amazing. Last week at Quail Hollow was awesome. Felt no different at Bay Hill. Felt no different at the Players. Felt no different. So it's odd. It doesn't feel like it's dying, yet you hear a lot of very valid complaints on the internet. So I think it's been very troubling. I don't like where it's going. It's got to be exhausting to be a casual golf fan at this point in time. I don't know why you would want to hear about the business side of this game, end quote. He went on to say, Matt, essentially that he doesn't think that fans should even know who's on the policy board. Why is that public and why does it matter? Thoughts?
I think Max is wrong. I love Max. I think he's a cool guy. But I think he's misreading this thing. I think he's incorrect. To state that social media skews negative is something that we all know, right? It's more than skews negative. It is negative. That's the nature of social media. It's the nature of, kind of keyboard warriors. It is what it is. However, in this case, we're not talking about the dialogue being shaped by the opinions of people who may be negative towards it for one reason or other, for or against. We're talking about the way every step along the way, every one. The comments that are made publicly are, the most important thing to us are the fans. The most important things to us are the fans. So, as fans, how does a fan register their vote? How does a fan show their reaction? You can't compare the body of fans against those that show up at an event. It's not a bad measure, but it's nowhere near in comparison. Right? Those that show up have a vested interest of being there. You can look at people that show up as a sample survey and go, well, it shows me that there's interest in what we're doing and that we're moving in a good direction. For example, you can use it that way. You can look that way with what LIV did in Australia, for example, and the crowds that they're bringing in. Good sign, really good sign. By their measure, it was 93,000 people. That's good, especially when you compare it to a PGA Tour event. The signature event the week after the Masters had 115,000 people on site. And you go, geez, that's a comparable number. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's moving in the right direction. But it's still a sample survey compared to the fans at large. Right? People in the United States in some way, shape, or form that have touched the game of golf in a given year is 100 million people. Now, not all those people are golf, PGA Tour or LIV fans or DP World Tour fans or Korn Ferry Tour or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the pool that you were choosing from that in some way are touched by the game of golf is almost 1 out of 3 Americans. It's 100 million people just over. Now, it's defined by a lot of different ways, and I won't waste your time by getting into all those definitions because they do vary. But if you look at, okay, well, what is our best measure for the masses in terms of impact? And that's ratings. It goes back to what I was just telling you. How do you, as a fan, vote? You vote by passion. You vote by interest. And those that have a vested interest in what you like and dislike hope that you react to the advertising and the products and services that surround it. So up until last week, when, as I said, Rory McIlroy, he is the only thing right now that has moved the needle to that extent. Even a major championship just a few short weeks ago was down considerably in ratings, but not at Charlotte. At Charlotte, it was up 34%. Surrounding all of that, it has been down, and it's been down throughout the course of the season. There's plenty of reasons given to us as to why. Most notably, the reasons why are that people are just tired of the drama and the politics and the fighting that's going on outside the ropes. But when their imagination is captured, their ratings have gone up by 34% in the last week, surrounded by all these other weeks in which the ratings were down, and they were down considerably. So I don't think that it's opinions of social media that are skewing the true picture. I think the true picture is actual action that people take. And right now, when you talk about mass media, mass numbers, mass reaction, the best way to judge it is, where are you investing your passion? Where are you investing your time? And by the vast majority of what we're seeing, there is a diminishment of that investment of time and passion. And now you can get into what are the reasons why. So I don't think it's people being influenced by negative voices on social media, notwithstanding the fact that there are plenty of those, admittedly. I think it's because the direction that people are taking this right now has been wrong for so long. They're trying to correct the path, but it still always seems to be tainted with being reactionary. We know what the people want. And I'm not talking about we like it's some secret cabal. I'm talking about all of us right now. They want to see the best players play. They want to see the best players compete. They want to see it more often. They don't want to see just a division. They don't want to see just the fighting. They don't want to know about all the greed and all the rest that is surrounding each of the parties on either side. That's what I think is going on here.